So today I'm going to be making some pintos and collard greens per my husband's request. And to get started, you just want to get you a pound of pinto beans. And I put mine in a pot of water and let it soak overnight. But if for some reason you forget to do that, which I have done in the past, they do have instructions on the back of the pinto beans to let you know how to do a quick soak. So anyway, when you get your beans, they're going to be a lot smaller than what you see in here. This is they have already soaked and set overnight, so they will get a little bit bigger. And so at this point, all I'm going to do is just rinse or pour this into a colander, rinse these off real good, and then I'm going to transfer them into my crock pot. After you get your beans transferred into your pot, you are going to want to pour enough water over top of them to cover your beans. And I would say just pour enough to where they are just barely covering them. So I'm just adding about half of this into my pinto beans. I had already pre-chopped these onions. I like to cook my beans with onions. I just feel like the onions give it a really good flavor while it's cooking. And then I'm just going to save this other part in case anybody wants to eat any after they cook with the raw onions. We usually use chow chow in ours, but I'm just going to stir that. Now your onions will float, you know, because it's got water in it, but they will cook into the beans and flavor the, you know, the juices and everything in there while it's cooking. So put that in. And I purchased some country ham chunks. You can get ham hock, anything. Walmart usually sells this on a little stand that's got a variety of different things. So I did pick up one of these. I'm going to put that inside of here and just kind of like wiggle it down into the middle. And I'm not going to add any salt right now because this probably has a lot of salt in it. So I usually just go ahead and drop this in there and let it cook, and then, you know, we'll do the taste test after everything's done, see if I need to put a little bit more salt in. Okay, I have this out of the package now, and I'm just going to kind of like work this down into the middle. I've actually used the ham strips as well and just kind of like put them down in there, you know, whatever you want to do. So it's down in there in the middle. So now I'm just going to put the lid on this, and I've got one of these old-fashioned crock pots that's got the dial on it. But I would say I would cook this, if you're going to cook it all day, cook it on medium for about 8 hours. If you're going to cook it, you know, for about 4 hours, of course, high. But I'm just going to turn my dial, and I'm going to set mine on about 300. And so I'm going to let that cook like that. Once it gets done, of course, like I said, we'll do the taste test, see if I need to add any more salt or anything like that. Okay, so now I'm going to start my collard greens. And this is collard greens in a bag, and these are already pre-washed and everything. It says double washed on here. I used to buy these fresh from the farmer's market, but it is such a, I don't know how to put the words into it, but it just takes so long to prep these when you do it that way, because you have to wash them, you have to devein them, cut them up. By the time you do all that, I mean, it took me a good hour when I did it before, and it's just made me not want to cook them anymore. So now I buy them this way, because it's just a lot easier. So anyway, this bag is going to shrink down to maybe less than half this size once I get it in my pot. So if you are going to cook a lot or cook for a lot of people, you probably will want to purchase 2 of these bags. So you are going to have to start off doing this a little bit at a time, just because I'm going to get this whole entire bag in this pot. And so I'm going to have to let some of it wilt down, add a little bit more, let it wilt down, add a little bit more, that type thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and just take some handfuls and go ahead and put as much as I can get in here. Okay, so that's as much as I'm going to get in here for right now. And then I'm going to probably take a couple cups of water and put in here, and I might add a little bit more water as I go, but I'm not going to do it all at once because I don't want to have too much juice. So I'm just going to pour some water in here, and you can use chicken broth or stock if you have it. on hand. I don't, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sprinkle some chicken base in here as well. And I'm not measuring really any of this, and I may be adding this as I go. As it wilts down, I may add some more. But I'm just going to sprinkle this over it. And I have got my burner on right now, and it's on like medium. I also have bought some ham to put in this as well, and I'm not going to put it in just yet. I'll probably wait until I get the majority of my bag in there and then put that in there. So I will not be adding any extra salt. Also, I think this chicken base does have salt in it too. So you just have to be careful when you're cooking with ham and stuff like that, because you can't have it too salty. So I'm just sprinkling a little bit of black pepper in here as well. And this morning I cooked me some bacon, so I've got me some bacon grease, and I'm going to drizzle that over here, over this too. That's probably all the bacon grease I'm going to put in this whole entire thing. It was probably about 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to put the lid on it till that wilts down, and then I'm going to add some more. As you can see, this has wilted down to half of what I had put in this pot. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of like make me a little place in the middle with my spoon and put my ham in there. And this one is actually a country ham hock. I don't even know where I picked this up at. I think I may have gotten this one at Aldi. I probably should have put this one in the pinto beans, because I think I'm going to end up with more pinto beans than I am greens. But it's okay. So I'm just going to set this down kind of like right in the middle here. And then I'm going to add some more greens over top of this. And something else I like to add, and I did not put that in here when I first started putting these in, but I do like to add a little bit of garlic powder. I wouldn't really put any actual garlic pieces in there. I guess you could. I've not ever tried it, but I just like sprinkling the garlic powder in there. So I'm just going to keep continuing to do this as it wilts down until I get this whole bag in here. I am going to sprinkle some garlic powder over it in a minute. I can already smell these things cooking, even though, you know, I've got a lot to go in here. But, and then, you know, like I said, I'm not measuring anything. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is just kind of like doing a little bit of taste testing later to see if there's anything else I need to add to it. And if I need to add any more water, I will, of course, add some more of this chicken base as well. So, anyway, that's what I'm going to do. And while this is cooking, I'm going to go ahead and start on the cornbread. Okay, so the first ingredient in this is 1 cup of cornmeal. And just to let you know that there are more cups of flour in this than there is cornmeal. But to me, that's what makes this cornbread really soft. If you are more of the traditional cornbread type person, then you probably will not like this recipe. Because it is kind of cakey, but it's very good. So I'm going to put 1 cup of cornmeal and 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And this does make a lot, so if you're not going to be making this for a lot of people, or you know, you don't really want any for leftovers, you're probably going to have half this recipe. And then 1 cup of sugar. And always add your dry, or mix your dry ingredients up first. So now it's 1 teaspoon of salt. And measure your ingredients over your actual bowl. Two tablespoons of baking powder. take my whisk and I'm just going to blend this all together. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did go ahead and preheat my oven to 350, and I have got some butter melting in a pan on the stove because it does call for 1/3 cup of melted butter as well. Okay, so now you're going to pour in 2/3 cup of vegetable oil. You're going to pour in your 1/3 cup of melted butter. And you do want to do this prior to adding your eggs. That's how the recipe tells you to do it, so that you're not like cooking your eggs when you pour this in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the remaining part that's on the bottom of this and use my scraper and scrape it into my casserole dish so that I can grease that. And then you are going to add your honey and your eggs and then your milk. So you're going to add about 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm just going to eyeball this. And then you're going to add your eggs. There's 4 eggs beaten. And then your 2½ cups of milk. And this recipe calls for whole milk, but I've got 2% milk and it always comes out just fine. So you just want to stir everything up. Starting out, you want to be careful because, you know, it's real liquid. Got a lot of this liquid in it and you don't want it to splash everywhere. So you want to stir this around till it's good and combined, and you want to get most of your bigger lumps out. But if you don't get every little lump out, it's not going to be that big of a deal. You know, I've baked this a lot of times and I've never had a problem with it. So if you see little small lumps in it, just don't even worry about that. Just get as many as you can. But you do want to get probably to this consistency here. So once you get that done, you're just going to pour this into your greased casserole dish and then bake it in the oven for about 45 minutes. So I'm just going to pour this in here, and whenever I make this, I always have more than I need for this. So what I do is I take a little small dish and I will put the remainder of it in that, and I just give that to my parents, and that's just enough for them. I cut it in 4 and then put the lid on it, and they have some that they can eat with one of their meals. So I'm just going to pour this in, and you want to get it probably about halfway full. And I'm just going to bake this uncovered, like I said, for about 40 to 45 minutes. All right, I have the whole entire bag of greens in this pot, so that just shows you how much these wilt down. And I'm just going to turn the burner down with a lid on it and let them simmer until everything else is ready. You really you want to know how long it takes to actually cook these. I would say probably about an hour. You just want to get that dark green
Look, you can see some of these leaves are a darker green. They were on the bottom. I just stirred them up. So you want all of your leaves to be that dark green color. And once they get to that color, they're good and wilted, then your greens are good, or done. But like I said, I'm just going to leave it on the stove and let it simmer until everything else is finished. And so as long as I don't run out of juice, I'm good to go. Okay, so I got my cornbread out of the oven. I already started slicing it down vertical, and I'm just going to do 2 horizontal slices this way. It cuts really good, as you can see. And it has cooled already, and then back here was the one that I've got from my mom and daddy. I just cut it, and just across it. There's 4 pieces there. Okay, so my pintos, I think I'm going to have to let these cook for maybe 30 more minutes to another hour. They're not really tough or anything. They're just not as soft as I want them to be. But anyway, I'm going to let these cook for a little bit, and then after I get that done, I'm going to put everything together on a plate, and that way you can see how everything turned out. Okay, I did forget to mention, I do take, once the ham is really soft and everything, and it's just about cooked, or this ham's actually cooked all the way through, but, I take it out a little bit before I'm going to serve, and I do cut up the ham and everything, and then I will put it back into the beans and stir it around real good so it incorporates in that, and then let it cook probably the last 30 minutes before I serve it. And I'll do the same thing with the the collard greens as well. Alright, so this is what's for dinner. There's the cornbread, the collard greens, the pinto beans, and of course you've got to eat this. Some good old sweet tea.